All right, welcome to your noontime show, The Wolf Report. I am Dave, your host. We talk about quick news items and some sports and some good news. Got a neat story today for that. I like the good news section a lot. I like telling news too. A little different from what we cover in the morning show. I want to cover some additional things we didn't get to in the morning show. One of those is this talk about the things that are making some people sick, that is outbreaking more than half the states in the country. According to the Epic Times, Taco Bell has now confirmed removal of some items, but it says no confirmed link to the cyclosporiasis outbreak. Sorry if I said that wrong. Cyclosporiasis. So they say that on July 14th, they confirmed that it has voluntarily removed some menu items as a precautionary measure amid an outbreak of a diarrhea-causing parasite in the United States. Quote, the health and safety of our guests is our top priority. Public health officials have not confirmed a link to Taco Bell or any specific ingredient, supplier, restaurant, or retailer. Taco Bell said in a statement to news outlets. While authorities continue their broader view, Taco Bell has voluntarily and temporarily removed the limited ingredients at select restaurants as a precautionary measure. We will continue to closely monitor the situation and follow guidance of public health authorities. More than half the states in the country have recently reported cases of this, which is caused by a parasite that spreads through produce contaminated with feces. Oh, that's such a nice thought at this noontime. Michigan has reported the most cases with over 3,000 as of yesterday, the 14th. WWJ-TV, a Detroit-based broadcast, reported last week that Taco Bell locations had been putting up signs that said they were unable to sell lettuce, cilantro, onion, pico de gallo, and guacamole due to a nationwide recall. Taco Bell did not return a request for comment for more details. Michigan authorities said this week their investigation pointed to lettuce or salad greens as a potential source of the outbreak, although they have not been able to completely rule out other items. No specific type of produce, grower, or supplier has been identified as the source, Michigan Department of Health and Human Services said in a statement. Asked whether the Food and Drug Administration was looking at any specific company, such as Taco Bell, in its investigation, acting FDA Deputy Commissioner for Food, Donald Prater, told reporters on a call on Tuesday that the FDA certainly is continuing its traceback investigation on multiple produce items, also including locations that are reported by the case residents before they became sick. Gwen Biggerstaff, Deputy Director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's Division of Foodborne, Waterborne, and Environmental Diseases, says that the cyclosporiasis cases in Kentucky, Michigan, Ohio, and West Virginia are likely linked. The states are really actively tracking down and interviewing cases and collecting the data that are available. She said, adding that later that the work would lead to identification of a source. Cases happen in the United States each summer, but the number this year is unusually high. Prior outbreaks have been caused by contaminated produce such as green onions, peas, and raspberries. Officials are advising people to wash their hands before and after handling produce. This is such a wonderful thought. Wash produce before preparing and consider cooking any produce before consumption. I think there's some things there that I just don't want to eat for a while. The president said also today that the FBI is wasting its time if it probes conspiracy theories about Senator Lindsey Graham's death. I don't see a lot of evil there. Trump said of Senator Lindsey Graham's death, he said that he was unaware of the conspiracy theories surrounding this late senator's sudden death, but said that any FBI investigation into them would be a waste of time. Well, I don't know why, because I think he had a problem. His father had a very similar problem, as you know. It's very unique, the president said, referring to Graham's health issues. I don't see a lot of evil there. I know there are all sorts of conspiracy theories going on, and I think the FBI is wasting their time if they're doing that. So we will see. Trump said that Graham's condition was difficult to detect, although he noted that the late senator had previously complained of having a bad back. I wish he took better care of himself, the president told reporters. What happened is actually something that's very hard to detect. It was not related to any blockage. It was a totally different thing. I've watched all the medical reports. I've had the doctors from the White House come in and explain what happened. And this is something that's very almost undetectable. And if it happens, there's not much you can do about it. The Epoch Times reached out to the FBI for comment, but of course, had not received anything by publication time. I think, because he had just returned from Kyiv, Ukraine, and they announced on the trip that they'd reached agreement with the Trump administration to move forward with updated legislation on Russian sanctions. And the legislation was Graham had been working on with fellow Republicans and Democrats for months, would impose sanctions on countries doing business with Russia, including buyers of its energy exports. Graham met with the Ukrainian leader, President Volodymyr Zelensky, in Kyiv on the same day, said the agreement meant the legislation could move forward, giving Trump fresh tools to help end the Ukraine-Russian war, which is now in its 5th year. We've reached an agreement with the White House on a version of the Russian sanctions bill they would support. It means it's going to become law, he told reporters, wrapping up his 10th visit to Kyiv. So there's always going to be those thoughts that maybe there was something that happened there. Andy Serkis, story about him, British actor and director. He said that, who of course is famed for playing Gollum in the Lord of the Rings franchise, has responded to questions over a lack of diversity in the Frame trilogy over 20 years after the blockbuster film was released. Serkis is currently in New Zealand, where he's directing and starring in the franchise's latest feature, The Hunt for Gollum, due in cinemas next year. The versatile actor was asked by the BBC about the cast diversity, a common feature in modern films. Tolkien himself was influenced a lot by Norse mythology. Serkis replied, "The Shire feels very white. They're not concerned what goes on outside the borders of the Shire, but they know they don't want people coming in. Yes, there have been criticisms on casting," he said in the interview. Serkis also commented on the upcoming film. "I don't think we'll be doing a politically correct recasting for the sake of a casting and ticking boxes version of the film. So it's where the casting is relevant, basically. Hollywood has made a deliberate push for gender and ethnically diverse casting in recent years. Major casting decisions include choosing Halle Bailey to play Ariel in the 2023 film The Little Mermaid. And there's a couple others mentioned. So that is a battle that's going on. Hooray for them for standing up and saying we're going to remain true to to what the stories were about, and not twisting those things. That's happening at all levels. So I think that is important that they do that. In sports, of course, we had the All-Star game. The AL beat the NL, blanked them 15 strikeouts by their relievers, 4-0. So the All-Star game is over. Salute to the AL. On to the games now, starting Thursday with one game. The rest will kick in Friday. Spain beats France 2-0 to advance to the World Cup final. Spain plays the winner of England versus Argentina in the finals on July 19th. France plays for third place on July 18th. A pair of goals and stellar defense and goaltending by Spain were too much for high-flying France to overcome. ending the run for a third consecutive appearance in the World Cup final. So this is going to be pretty intense as they get into these finals. Pretty intense. Of course, you've got England, and that'll be interesting. That'll be interesting. So you can go read about the game. I'm not going to go through all the game, but it's getting down to the crux of it, and it's going to be a big final. So looking forward to that. The world is watching. At least the world of sports is watching, and so we'll see. DOJ is launching a global trade fraud unit targeting tariff evasion and forced labor. The Department of Justice created this new unit to investigate international trade crimes that harm U.S. industries, avoid tariffs, support forced labor, or help finance foreign adversaries. The Global Trade and Commerce Enforcement Section, GTCES, will operate within the Department's National Fraud Enforcement Division, the Justice Department said yesterday. But they focus on criminal prosecutions. The new unit will be lead complex criminal cases related to customs fraud, smuggling, false report, import documents, sanctions evasion, international supply chain forced labor offenses. Quote, for too long, fraud actors have viewed customs violations as a mere surcharge or cost of doing business. Assistant Attorney General Colin McDonald, head of the National Fraud Enforcement Division, said in a statement, by utilizing the department's full weight, we are making it clear that trade fraud is a serious economic crime. The department said the new section worked closely with a trade fraud task force, which was jointly established by the Department of Justice and Homeland Security in August 2025, with a mission to enforce what the agencies described as the Trump administration's America First trade policy, aiming to bolster U.S. manufacturing by ending unfair trade practices. In less than a year, the task force has recovered, forfeited, penalized, or charged more than $1 billion in civil and criminal cases. So there should be protections in place. Absolutely. I want to get to some good news really quick. I don't want to lose the time here. This is a great story. I love these good news sections of stories, and this is a really good one. And this is from the Good News Network. A decade ago, a young American began recording interviews with World War II combat veterans to satisfy his curiosity about the war. Just getting them to talk would be the amazing thing, but a lot of times later in life, those very late in life, did talk about it. That curiosity became something of an obsession and 3,000 veterans later, this is incredible, his hard drives and SD cards have become something of a national treasure. Brought to us from Steve Hartman of CBS News on the road, the 28-year-old Rishi Sharma said, it's been a privilege to meet the moral compass behind our society. I've spent every single day of the last 10 years doing that, said Sharma, having recently finished speaking with a 100-year-old survivor of Iwo Jima. Sharma was first interviewed by Hartman in 2016 when the Fresh Face Post high schooler was mostly driving around his Southern California region for his curiosity. At that time, the young man was planning a multi-year trip around the country with the aim of saving as many stories from veterans as could be saved before the curtain came down on the greatest generation. Hartman shared that back when he first met Sharma, there were some 700,000 World War II vets still among us. Today, that number stands at 30,000. Just the advice they impart silently steers the ship of this country, Sharma said. That's amazing, and I hope at some point, I don't know if that's made available, but if it's not, it should be. That's pretty doggone amazing when you think about, just the sheer number of the stories. And, a lot of you, like I've been to, Holocaust museums, and my favorite part of it, although I say favorite, it's hard, but where I like to go is they have the interviews playing, and you listen to most of those, if not all of them, are not with us anymore, who came through the Holocaust, and they talk about their stories. Those are hard to listen to, but necessary, and for what they went through. And I would like to hear these stories. These are amazing, and we need to capture that as quickly as possible. I realize many did not want to talk about it, but later in life, it seems as though with enough time, many do. And that's an amazing number. If you think about how many served, and It's a spec considering how many did serve in the war, but it's a big spec, and that's a lot of interviews, and I applaud him for doing that. What a great story, and I hope that I'm able to to listen to some of those stories. I think that is very very cool, and so I like that a whole lot. Let's get a couple more things in before we get out of here on the Wolf Report today, and we'll see you tonight on the Racing Hour, kicking off at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The Coast Guard has apprehended 35 suspected illegal immigrants and 3 smugglers near San Diego. Uh, the interdiction, the Coast Guard's Maritime Safety and Security Team, MSST, Honolulu, intercepted a 34-foot sailing vessel on July 12th as it crossed the maritime boundary line about 5 miles off Point Loma, a peninsula in San Diego. The MSST Honolulu boat crew boarded the vessel and spoke with the operator, who was identified as a U.S. citizen, and claimed he was alone. Oh, what a lie. During the inspection, the crew found another individual hidden below deck, prompting further investigation. More people were found hidden below the deck. In total, the vessel was reported to have 2 U.S. citizens, 7 suspected aliens, 4 adults, and 3 unaccompanied minors. Unaccompanied, hear that, and suspected narcotics aboard. All 9 were transferred to the Imperial Beach Border Patrol at Ballast Point, San Diego. In a second interdiction the same day, the boat crew intercepted a 36-foot sailing vessel near Point Loma. The vessel contained 1 operator who had allegedly had prior smuggling convictions and 3 individuals suspected to be illegal immigrants. Yeah, they get whatever coming to them. On July 11th, the Coast Guard intercepted a 40-foot cabin cruiser vessel near Mission Bay, San Diego, finding 21 suspected illegal immigrants aboard, 20 adults, and an unaccompanied minor. Yeah, where's the kids going? Who's got them? Where are they going to end up? The same day, authorities boarded an 18-foot vessel near Point Loma, finding 4 suspected illegal immigrants, 3 adults, and 1 minor. They have patrolled 95,000 miles of coastline in the calendar year of 2025, with 78,677 personnel at its disposal. The service uses 1,808 small boats, 223 cutters, and 135 rotary aircraft. In a January 13 post on X, USCG said last year its crews surged in enforcement operations against illegal maritime migration, interdicting or transporting over 11,000 illegal aliens and keeping pressure on smuggling networks where enforcement is most affected offshore and forward. Launched in October 25, Operation Riverwall sought to bolster the Coast Guard's efforts to secure roughly 260 miles of the Rio Grande River in eastern Texas that make up the U.S. border in the region. According to January 9th USCG statement, Operation Riverwall was a key part of the interdicting more than 11,000 illegal immigrants last year. So there you go. Pray for their work. It can be dangerous, I'm sure. And these children, it continues to be a story. And, who knows if, obviously they're paying money, they're being sold. Come on. And people are fighting this. It's dangerous, and you got children on the ship, and it's American citizens involved. You get what you get. I hope they're prosecuted to the fullest point of the law. And maybe they'll take their boat away from them. It's a nice boat. Who's paying for the boat? Well, I guess that's all those people that's paying for a trip. So good job. Good job, Coast Guard and your teams, for what you do. Many times you're boarding with massive amounts of drugs on these boats. The smuggling and selling of people, humans, is horrible, and they can become very violent. So they practice that and train for that, because you have to leave your vessel, get on that vessel, and you're looking through a boat that has people hidden out. It can be very dangerous, and things can turn really deadly very quickly. So let's pray for the work that these men and women do, and we applaud them in that effort to keep us safe here from the drugs and protect our borders. And I do agree that offshore and forward is the best way before they ever get to land. And they're kind of out there, nowhere to go if we see them, and they stop them and they look for certain things, and but it sounded like about every day they're catching somebody. Amazing. Take care. That's the Wolf Report. We'll see you again tonight again for the SFP Racing Hour, Dirt Report, SFP Sports. We got 2 interviews tonight, and looking forward to that. It's the return of Sir Chaser. He says, I have a bunch of notes. We'll get started at 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, somewhere right around there. We'll try to get as much in as we can before we divert and get to the interview. So we'll try to pack as much in as we can. Yeah, we missed last week's show, and y'all continue to pray for Dean, Sir Chaser Potts, and his family. They appreciate it very, very much. Let's go out with some music, and we appreciate you. See us tomorrow on the Wolf Report at 12 noon Eastern Daylight Time, which, by the way, if it passes the Senate, we'll no more have to fall back or spring forward. We'll just be spring flung. They only has to pass the Senate. President says he will sign it. House has already approved it. I think Americans want this, especially in the eastern United States. Take care, and God bless.